What's up? What's up? What's up? Hey, podcast listeners. I have with me Coach Colin Castellaw of Shop Mechanics. Coach, what's going on, man?
Not a lot. How y'all doing?
Man, I'm excited. So let me tell everybody this. I had this man on one time before, but nobody's ever heard it because it was so good and I was so selfish and so scarcity minded that I kept it. So apologies on me, and he's okay with doing another episode. So we're gonna go right into it.
Cool, man. I'm excited to be here. Hopefully I can help somebody out a little bit.
Man, if the second one is as good as the first one, then you're helping everybody out. So,
Cool.
can you tell us one, the origin of Shop Mechanics? What were you doing before it, and how did Shop Mechanics begin?
Yeah, for sure. So I originally started, I was a high school teacher and coach, kind of going that route. And I knew that I wanted to make basketball kind of my full-time thing. Just always had a massive passion for it, a massive passion for teaching it, and really started as I was coaching high school, started to fall in love more with the skill development side of things rather than the actual like X's and O's side of things. So really it felt like a natural fit to want to kind of move to skill training, and specifically shooting. Shooting's kind of always been my bread and butter a little bit. Through my own trials and tribulations, I've struggled with my shot a bunch and, kind of had to work and figure out what works best for me. And I had kind of an aha moment where I was working with a high school player who hadn't hadn't done a ton of basketball before, hadn't been playing for very long. And he was an abysmal free throw shooter. He was like 20%, like bad, like as bad as you could possibly be. And he had never really had anybody instruct him before. So I gave him like one little, kind of quick tip where to put his hand placement. And he went from being like a 20% free throw shooter to a 60% free throw shooter literally in like 2 minutes. And that feeling of like that instant gratification, that instant helping somebody, develop a passion for the game like I had, was something that really kind of made it want to be something that I did full time. So that's kind of really where the seed was planted. And then after that, it was kind of like, what path do you want to go down? So I kind of considered the graduate assistant route. Do I want to go back to college and, try to be a college coach? Did I want to try to get in, the skill development game? This was all kind of around like 2008, 2009, around that time. And so really this kind of boom in training and skill development hadn't hit yet. So, I mean, there was only just like a very few skill development guys hanging around. And so I really thought like, I don't really want to go back to school. I don't really want to do the college coaching life thing just because it's so hectic and, you get fired at a moment's notice and you're moving your family all the way around. So I thought, there's got to be some way I can do it on my own. And so that's when I decided to start Shop Mechanics.
So how did you know, and this is jumping ahead, online versus offline?
Yeah. I mean, so really, kind of at the end of the day, what I wanted to do is I wanted to create a career that I was in control of, and I love being in the gym and I love training kids, but I don't love doing it for 6 hours a day. I like 1 hour a day, 2 hours a day, that sort of thing. And I knew that the way I wanted to structure things was to be around my family and to have kind of that schedule flexibility. And so I knew that I had to, really kind of grind early in the online space to then be able to have that flexibility later on in life. So at the time, there was really very few people, doing online stuff. So when I jumped into Shop Mechanics and started the YouTube channel, I think I officially started it in 2011. And then I promptly bought a house and then worked a lot on renovating that house for the next year. So wasn't really till like 2012, 2013 when I started actually kind of doing, the online training sort of stuff. But basically, I just kind of bet on myself long term and knew that it wasn't going to do anything for a long time, but I just wanted to kind of snowball and continue to build.
So right now we're looking at almost 500,000 subscribers. Like, you're at the top of the game with the online subscribers with YouTube. So everything looks great right now, but I remember your story and you're saying how it wasn't always easy. Can you tell me about some of the beginning stages where you're up 10 hours a day driving, the time when you're still working your job but still also trying to get Shop Mechanics off the ground? What was that like?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was tough. It was a struggle. So, the high school that I was teaching at was about a 45-minute commute away. So in the beginning stages of Shop Mechanics, basically what I would do is I'd wake up at like 4 a.m. I'd work on the website for, about 2 hours, work on videos for about 2 hours, do my thing. Then I'd drive 45 minutes out to teach the whole day, and then come home and then do more once I got, got back. And that was pretty much my schedule day in and day out for about a year, or well, about a year and a half. And then, you know, summers were a little bit better. Being a high school teacher, I got summers off so I could, you know, kind of grind and do more stuff. Then it was crazy because, you know, the world has changed so much as far as like web development, you know, videos and all that sort of stuff. So when I first started, I mean, I took every like penny that I had in savings and dropped it on a website, dropped it on a camera. And it was like, I mean, it took literally just to recoup the cost of the website and the cameras and the computer. It took like 3 years of work just to make that money back, not, or much less, you know, make any money at all in the online gaming. So it was definitely a long burn, and it was tough, especially being a high school teacher and working that full-time job.
And you said that one or two things happened that almost made you quit. And what were those things, if you remember?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, the first time I almost quit probably came, you know, you're just putting in blood, sweat, and tears. You know, it's hours and hours and hours and hours of editing and, you know, trying to craft and not being good on camera. And so like doing retakes and, you know, all that sort of stuff. And like I was seeing a little bit of traction, but it was just kind of like, you know, what for? It's not really going anywhere. Like, yeah, I'm getting a few thousand views here and there, but it just like nothing was sticking. For a lot of people who don't know, the monetization on YouTube is, you know, not that great as far as like views. Like to make a living on YouTube, you have to just hammer the views as far as, you know, just kind of the ads that play before. So like I was like, well, I can't make a living doing this just with the views. And really it was the type of thing where I made my website. I thought the website was just going to explode. Nobody came to it. I had sunk all this money into web development and doing the videos and all that sort of stuff. And then it was just like, I almost kind of just cut my losses and moved on. But then just decided it turned into be kind of a blessing in disguise, kind of the failed website, because I had about 100 plus videos that I'd already put the work in. And so those are what I started trickling out onto YouTube. So it kind of got me through what I call the quit phase, you know, where you know, maybe if you were just making videos in real time, putting a lot of effort in, you know, you might be like, I'm going to quit right now just because it's just not getting traction. But I had the 100 videos in the kitty all ready to go. So I was just like, I don't know, I guess I'll just keep rolling them out and we'll see what happens. So that was kind of the first quit phase, where when the website kind of failed, nobody showed up. You know, that was the first one that really came close. Then after that, I had another stage where I was really close to quitting when I launched my very first program. You know, so I got a following of about, I think it was like 30,000, 35,000, somewhere in there, subscribers on YouTube. I was like, okay, I'm getting a little traction. Like I'm going to try to sell them something now. Like this is how you make the money. You know, so I made my first program. I called it the 10-minute shooting trainer. In fact, I think you can still see advertisements on it on some of my really popular old videos. And so I launched this bad boy, and I was like, I'm going to price it at 99 cents. Like everybody's going to want it. Like who's not going to want to buy this awesome product for 99 cents? And I sold 7 copies of it. And I probably put 80 hours of work putting it together, producing it, creating it, the whole thing. And then I sold 7 copies. I was like, if I can only make $7, like before taxes, on, you know, that much work, that much effort, and this size of audience, like there's no hope. You know, so I came really close to quitting at that point in time.
Man, do you mind going into the reason why you sold $7 worth?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so there was a few different reasons why. A lot of it comes down to the marketing. You know, I really didn't, you know, we as basketball coaches like to think that it's just like our skills and what we know and the way, you know, we teach things is enough to move product, or, you know, to get people excited, or to sign up for training sessions or that sort of thing. And really like you just don't realize how important the marketing side of things are. Like even if you've got the best product in the world, if people don't know about it, if people don't, you know exactly what it does or how it's going to benefit them, they're just not going to crack the wallet most of the time. So really it was just the whole marketing strategy, or lack thereof, was pretty horrific. And so, you know, that really kind of contributed to why it did so bad.
Man, so did it take you 100 videos before you got traction, before you saw something that just boomed, or whatever happened to get you over that hump? Was it the 100th video, or what was it that helped you out?
Yeah, it was just kind of a slow burn, you know, just kind of a slow trickle. I always talk about, it's funny. In fact, my wife and I were just kind of reminiscing the other day. We got super excited when I got to 10,000 views on the channel total. Like we went out to dinner, like it was super exciting. And it was really just kind of that snowball rolling downhill. So I wouldn't say there's a specific point in time or a specific video amount that kind of, you know, turned the corner. It was kind of more so I just constantly kept turning out the content. And then I had a few videos that kind of hit pretty well. Like I did a Steph Curry shooting form video that did pretty well. I did like a Jamal Crawford breakdown that did pretty well. And so it was kind of a combination of, you know, constant barrage of content meets like a few of them kind of hitting in the right spot to kind of get them going.
Right. And random question, man. You are very smart, obviously, because a lot of people don't touch the NBA because of the copywriting rules. And I've seen one person's account banned, maybe two, but you obviously aren't worried about that. Have you looked
Yeah.
at the laws, or what did you do to make sure you're safe with that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so I started by researching fair use laws pretty deeply when I very first started out to make sure it was, you know, usable. And so there's a few, you know, so fair use basically says that you can use footage if it's for educational purposes or if it's for commentary, but it's kind of this like, it's kind of this super vague area where at any point in time, you know, you could still get dinged for it. But the thing is, the more things you do to make it fair use, the safer you are generally. So a lot of times the channels that you see get, you know, bumped are just, you know, just showing highlights or, you know, just showing the footage by themselves. So the more things that you can do to add to the footage to make them more educational or more to where your commentary makes sense, the safer you are. So for me, for example, I do, you know, like arrow annotations, that kind of makes it more fair use. Then maybe I'll add a voiceover, that makes it more fair use. Then maybe I'll do a slow motion and that makes it more fair use. So you kind of stack these things up, and then that makes it to where you can use the footage.
So YouTube's free. You can post videos on there. It's unlimited storage. Why? I know you've seen a lot of trainers come and go in the online space, especially with YouTube. Why do most trainers fail, in your opinion?
It's because it's hard. I mean, as far as video editing goes, you can either, you know, pay a video editor or, you know, videographer or something like that, a bunch of money, and you're not going to make it back for a really long time. Or you can get in the trenches and try to do it yourself. And for most people, I come from a little bit of a creative, artistic background. So the video editing was something that I already kind of had in my bag a little bit. And I think, honestly, that's the biggest advantage I had on a lot of guys starting out was that, you know, I did all the graphics myself. I did the editing myself. I did, you know, all that sort of stuff. Whereas if you were going to do it on your own and make it look, you know, pretty decent, you'd have to hire a team of like 3 or 4 people, which by the time you're paying 3 or 4 people, it just doesn't work. So it, you know, it's just a tough platform because every day, you know, people expect higher quality on YouTube. You know, it used to just be like, hey, you could throw up a tripod and it is what it is. But now, like, people kind of expect that higher quality. The algorithm on YouTube's changed, so they really push to like in-depth content rather than like short, quick hitters. So, you know, it just basically it's a lot more work. I think for most people starting out, if they're editing videos themselves, if they're not, you know, an experienced video editor, if they're going to get a video to do well on YouTube, it's probably going to take 3 to 5 hours of video editing. You know, and that's before you even shoot the actual like content in the gym. You know, a lot of guys maybe aren't great on camera, so that's a rough experience as well. So, I mean, the platform as a whole is awesome. It's absolutely awesome. But the roadblocks for people starting out are definitely tough, for sure.
Man, what equipment did you start with? Because I know you kind of like makeshifted some things together, but what was your equipment in the beginning?
Sure. So the first camera I bought was a Canon T2i DSLR. So basically just kind of your normal DSLR camera that shot, you know, had like a video mode that you could use on it. So that was the first piece of camera equipment I bought. And then I really was trying to get, you know, like high quality kind of stabilized footage. But back in the day, I mean, you can buy stabilizers all over the place now. But back in the day, it was like there was nothing to, you know, you could either buy like the giant professional ones that you see them like running around on the Super Bowl with, or that was pretty much it. So I ended up finding a tutorial on YouTube to teach you how to make this like counterbalance rig. So I went down to Home Depot and built this like giant, I called it my rickety rig because it was like super creaky and crackly, and made this huge rig out of PVC piping that like went over your shoulders and had like 2 handles in front. Then I went to like Big 5 Sporting Goods and bought some like 5-pound free weights to put on the back to counterbalance the camera on the front. And then like wrapped it with electrical tape. It was disgusting looking. And it was funny because then I started getting some traction. I'd go to these like video shoots and I'd either, you know, have other people there or whatever. And I'd walk in with this rickety rig and it just looked like a Frankenstein monster. So, yeah, definitely humble beginnings on the equipment side of stuff. And basically, I was a teacher, so it wasn't like I was making buku bucks to throw money at the problem. So every time I made a little bit of money, I'd upgrade equipment. Then I make a little bit more money, and I'd buy some new lights. Then I'd make a little bit more money, and I'd buy a little dolly or whatever it is that I wanted to use. So it was definitely a slow burn on the equipment, and I'm definitely not afraid of making stuff out of PVC piping.
Are you a patient guy? Because I mean, this it seems like it happened quickly, 4 years, but I'm sure it didn't seem like it was quick when all this was going on.
Yeah, I mean, I like to think I'm patient. Kind of the model that I've always tried to have is just keep your head down and keep grinding. The analogy that we always hear is, the mountain. If you look at the top of the mountain, it seems really, really daunting. But if you take, one step at a time, at some time you will be at the top of the mountain. It's just a matter of when. And so basically, I just decided I'm going to try to take as many steps to get up that mountain as fast as I can. And so hopefully, it happens sooner rather than later.
So did you ever have to deal with imposter syndrome when you were beginning, and how did you find your voice when you were on the camera? What was that stage like?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, that's probably one of the hardest things to start out with is being on camera is uncomfortable for most everybody when they start. Like when I first started, I was terrible on camera, and my wife would be running the camera and she'd be like, nah, do it again. And I like do it. She'd be like, nah, do it again. So she was kind of my drill instructor boot camp. And like, I get kind of mad at her sometimes. I'd be like, babe, like that's the best I can do. She'd be like, nah, you can do better than that. And so, it kind of helped to have somebody like that accountable and be like, Colin, that sucked. Like you need to do that again. And so at the time, like I was kind of like mad about it, but looking back, it really kind of helped develop my voice a little bit and develop that kind of professionalism on camera. Most of the time now I hit things in one take. But yeah, it was a long struggle of being super awkward on camera, and like anything, it takes a little while to find your voice. I tried being, funnier for a little while, and I tried being more serious and hardcore, and you kind of find what works for you best. And I kind of landed somewhere in the middle, I like to think.
For sure. And did your audience help you figure that out by comments, or did they play a part in that entire process?
Yeah. I mean, it's best just not to look at the comments when you start out, get in there, and you can respond to people, but the hate, man, that YouTube hate is not something to laugh at. There are some
worse than the IG refs
in the comment section. Yeah, we got the IG refs. Like anytime you put anything in slow motion, travel. That's a travel. That's a double dribble. Like you just hear it nonstop. And like, you're trash. Like I'll take you one-on-one any day, whatever. And so it's really easy to get worked up at the comments. I've always just tried to be like water off a duck's back. It is what it is. My wife gets super worked up. Every now and again, she'll see a comment. She'll be like, did you see what that kid wrote to you? And I'm like, babe, it's cool. Not a big deal. It is what it is. But yeah, it's funny. It's funny now because, once you're in it for a while, you kind of enjoy it a little bit. Like I kind of like the banter and I like the hate a little bit. Kind of keeps a chip on the shoulder. So now I definitely accept it a little bit.
Yeah, man. So what are some of the benefits of this YouTube success? I see you interview players, NBA players sometimes, you train NBA players, you do a lot, you're traveling a lot. What are some of the biggest benefits that come top of mind?
Yeah, so I mean, I would say that the biggest benefit by far is the schedule flexibility, being your own boss, doing what you want to do when you want to do it. If you want to sleep in, you can sleep in. Most of the time I don't, but especially now I have a 2-year-old daughter who, it makes it really nice to where I can go to a dance recital if I want to, or I can go to her, preschool's field trip or whatever it is. And so kind of being your own boss and creating your own schedule is for me been probably the best part about it. I've always been somebody who kind of likes to sail their own ship. And so it feels, it feels good to kind of be in control of your own destiny.
Now, how do you balance all of this with a family? You have a wife, you have a daughter. I mean, how do you balance all that stuff, all of this?
I mean, it was really easy in the beginning when it was just me and my wife, but last 2 years, it's definitely more challenging when you have kids. The more kids, the more responsibility you have. And then, the more you need to make money, and support and provide and that sort of stuff. So kind of the main way that I balance it is I just wake up really early and I try to do as much as I can early on in the day. That way I'm kind of more present during the afternoon, evening, that sort of stuff. So most days I try to wake up somewhere around 5 to 5:30, get in the office, bang out the YouTube videos for the week, whatever it is. And then, in the afternoons, try to be full-time family man.
So did you, I mean, do you ever worry in terms of, I don't know how many products you have, maybe you don't, if you don't mind sharing how many you have, but do you ever worry like, oh, this product may flop, or do you have a formula down so consistent that where it's like, you know what, I just need to create this product and I'll be good. Let's go to Greece. Like, what is that like?
Yeah, it's the whole product development thing's interesting because there's never really a flop per se. I mean, some do better than others, and some they're going to do better than others. But really, the whole key is listening to your audience for the most part. Most of the trainings that we create aren't because I think they're the best trainings in the world necessarily, but it's because there's a need or a want or people want it. So most of the times I listen to my audience, and that's where a lot of our direction comes from. If I get a bunch of questions from kids that say, hey, I need help with this, then I'm going to research and dig and try to do what I need to do to create a training program that's going to help fulfill their needs and help, solve their issues that they're having on the court. So, shooting's our bread and butter, but we actually have like 12 training programs of varying lengths, some smaller, some bigger. And most of them have been bred out of some sort of need or want from the community for sure.
And I guess this is different for me even, and all millennials know about technology, right? So they say, but for you, you put a product out there, it doesn't have to sell the next day or the next week. When it's out there, it's evergreen, right?
Yeah.
Is that how it works?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, we're kind of in the process of revamping quite a few of them. But yeah, it's a nice thing where you're kind of, as far as the trainings go, you're not on that kind of content hamster wheel where you constantly have to come up with something new. If done the right way, you can have the same, so I've been running the same shooting programs pretty much for the last 2 years. We're just getting ready to launch a new one that's the way the world looks at shooting. I'm that excited about it. But it's one of those things where it's a ton of work up front, really heavy work up front, but then it's kind of that trickle over time for sure.
Yeah, I've heard like Russell Brunson say like it's a pain of in terms of the upfront work, but once you finish, like, oh man, you can kind of sit back and relax and
Yeah.
hang out. Is that accurate? How long can you actually relax though? I mean, because I know you treat the family well, you treat out, go out and stuff, but how long can you actually relax, you think, with the online product creation?
Um, I don't relax that much. I mean, most of the time there's always something else in the pipeline that I'm working on doing. I also do a lot of consulting for virtual training type of stuff. So I have kind of exterior clients that take up a lot of that exterior time as well. I've worked with brands like Nike, the Jordan brand, East Bay, that sort of stuff. So I'm working generally. If I'm not working on shot mechanics, I'm working on something else. So not a whole lot of downtime.
Yeah, I mean, you're actually, I don't say you're an affiliate, a partner. I don't know how deeply you can go into it, but a bunch of other products too that you are helping out and kind of advising over, right?
Yeah, yeah. So a lot of times, especially once you start to build that online following, you'll be approached by, different products, brands, companies that, either want to get in front of your audience or want your help or want, some sort of, promotion integration type of thing. So yeah, I've partnered with a few different brands in the past where, I help kind of create content for them using their product and then, they kind of shout me out and do that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's definitely cool. It's the type of thing where it starts out really small and then you kind of build it as you go along.
So, and I've seen you lately in your content, like you have been kind of knocking down different shooting misconceptions or traditional thoughts. Like one is the 10 toes pointing towards the basket kind of myth. And even for me, the dip in the shot. Like I
Mhm.
used to dip myself, but I dipped too low. But you look at Steph Curry's shot, he dips before he shoots and he rolls his hands up on the ball. Like little stuff that I'm realizing myself, like, oh man,
Yeah.
that's new. What are some of the biggest myths that you are going to be knocking down pretty soon with your next product?
For sure. Yeah. So I think the overarching biggest myth when it comes to shooting, and this is the thing that I really feel like at Shot Mechanics, we've kind of changed the conversation. When I first got in the game, it was, everybody cookie cutter form, everybody's got their system, hand here, feet here, ball here, blah, blah, blah. And it was kind of born out of, this idea that everybody's an individual, everybody's different. We don't all have the exact same diet plan that's going to work for us. We don't all have the exact same lifting plan that's going to work for us. We don't all have the exact same this, that, or the other thing. We don't all learn the exact same way. And so why should shooting be any different? I mean, some of us have longer arms, some of us have shorter arms, some of us are taller, some of us are shorter, some of us are bigger, some of us are faster. Some people jump higher. So really just the idea that everybody needs to have the exact same shot just didn't ever make sense to me. And when I was in high school and growing up, I had a period where my shot got really broke for a while because I had a high school coach that said, you have to shoot this way. You have to do this with your feet. You have to do this with your hand. And if you don't get to play. And so I had a rough go of it during that part of my career. And then my jumper came back and just sprung back to it once I could get back to doing what felt natural, what felt comfortable, and what got results. And so that's really where kind of this idea started. And so, as far as the myths go, overarching, it's this idea that your individual shot's going to be different person to person, but with inside that, there's, minor tweaks that you can make that can help out. So a few of the big myths would be, number one, turning the feet, like you mentioned. A lot of coaches, and it is insane how many coaches are still gung-ho on the 10 toes to the rim, but body biomechanically, it just doesn't work for most players. If you look at the best players in the league, if you look at the best players at pretty much any age from elementary school all the way through the NBA, the best shooters are always turn shooters for the most part. And everybody's going to have a varying degree of turns. Somebody like Steph Curry turns more than somebody like Klay Thompson. But this like weird notion of everybody needs to stay square to the hoop except for the guys that are really good at it just never really made sense to me. So yeah, feet squared, that's a big one. Loading the ball lower, like you said, the dip, that's another one. I stopped calling it the dip because I got a ton of pushback from a ton of people. I mean, I get an angry email a week like, how dare you teach people to bring the ball lower? So now I call it loading low. And it's just crazy because the number one complaint that I hear from people is that it's slow and that you can't get your shot off and that your shot's going to get blocked and that blah, 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 blah. We all heard it over and over again. But the issue is, if done right, and you load fast and you load early and you load quick, it doesn't matter. I mean, just like you said, Steph Curry, he's got one of the fastest releases of all time. He loads down by his waist. Ray Allen, who is generally considered to have one of the fastest releases of all time, dipped it to his waist on every single shot. And at the end of the day, let's just say, for argument's sake, let's say that it is slower, like even just a fraction of a second slower. I would much rather shoot 15% higher and then maybe get one less shot a game that you wouldn't get if it was slower. So people get stuck on this. It's slow. You're going to get blocked. You'll never get your shot off at the next level. And it's like, well, first of all, you got to get to the next level for that to even be an issue. So you got to hit some shots. And number two, even if it is slower, you just don't shoot. Maybe there's a time at the end of the quarter where you can't get a shot off if it is slower, which it's not. But if it is, just don't shoot the ball. Swing it. It's not a big deal. so yeah, I mean, I'd say that's definitely the second biggest misconception for sure.
Okay, so I'm gonna jump back to YouTube for a second because I know people are like, oh, I want to hear more about it. And you said before the interview, even if you gave the secret sauce for every single thing and you showed the playbook, it wouldn't matter because of what?
So there's a few different things that's tough. Number one, the YouTube algorithm, right? YouTube definitely favors kind of the rich get richer. So the climb up is really, really difficult. So in the search rankings, it's, if you're a big channel, you can get, big views or bigger views right away. And so your videos are going to rank better in search. That's just kind of how it goes. So really it's the type of thing, like you kind of like to get in the YouTube game and to make it successful, you've got to plan on eating dirt for 2 years at least. Some people, like there's been outliers to that situation. But for the most part, it's just so much energy, so much time, so much effort for such little reward. I think most of the time coaches think, well, like, I just spent 3 hours editing. I spent 2 hours shooting the video. And like, so, that's a bunch of hours that I could have been in the gym with, personal training clients, group training sessions, whatever it is. So it makes it tough. It's a beast of a platform. And when you get there and when it's used properly, it's phenomenal. But the climb up is difficult for sure. And a lot of that's because the way YouTube's, kind of algorithm structured.
So why won't copy? I'm sure people have copied you before. They've seen what you're doing. They see what you've done and they want to do the same thing. Why won't copying work in the long run?
Yeah. I mean, you can get a little traction through copying, and there's been some guys that have done that, and it is what it is. And I think it's the type of thing where YouTube is very, like, especially the audience on YouTube is very in tune to genuine things and genuine people. If you look at the successful people on YouTube in pretty much any category, whether it's comedy, whether it's news, whether it's music, whether it's anything, there's a very genuine quality. So I think, when it comes to YouTube, probably the worst thing you can do is try to copy or emulate somebody else. I think that's one thing that helped me stand out when I first started was, Gannon Baker, the OG of online basketball, kind of had his persona. And then there was a wave of kind of Gannon Bakers. Like everybody talked the same, everybody had the same lingo, everybody kind of did the same thing. And when I first started, I fell into that 100%. But then I felt like at a certain point I needed my own voice, I needed my own cadence, I needed my own structure. And I definitely saw like a much bigger increase when that happens. Not everybody's like has to be the same. Like I think the YouTube audience just really appreciates genuine, kind of content in that regard.
So you're going to play in Nuggets. I'm going to ask for a last one. So you said listen to the audience. You said start lean with the equipment. Be patient. It takes about 2 years. Is there another tip that you would be willing to share with the audience, the guys who, because I have people hit me up about YouTube, like I have the biggest audience in the world. What would you give the person just starting or the person who is getting a little bit of traction? What kind of advice?
Yeah, so I would say give the audience what they want, not what you want. So in coaching, we always like to think we have the answers. You know what I mean? I am great at this shooting drill and I love this ball handling drill and I'm awesome at teaching this. And that might be true, but if you can give the audience what they want, you will be much more successful, much faster. So basically, I mean, most all of the videos we make are pretty much suggestion run. I'll kind of keep track of what I'm seeing regularly and then I'll make a video on it. Just because, it's almost like teaching. So when I used to be a high school teacher, like, yeah, you can go in and you can give an assignment that everybody hates, or you can kind of give an assignment that has some flair, some flash people are excited about, and then sneak what you want to teach kind of in the back door. And that's kind of been my entire strategy to YouTube is teach what people want and then take what I want to teach and then kind of sneak it in. And that way they're getting the fundamentals and that sort of stuff. So it's kind of a compromise and a give and take of what you want to teach versus what they want to learn.
That's interesting because I know to each his own, each his own. And some guys I think I tweeted this the other day and said, give what they are, sell the want and give the need or something like that. I forget what kind of epigram I used, but got some feedback from people like, it just doesn't seem authentic. I couldn't do it. I mean, what do you say? I know you're not arguing against people, but what do you say to them about that mindset that won't let them show people what they want, but then sell the need within the package?
So I would say, at the end of the day, what's the goal? The goal is to teach basketball education and help kids get better. So you can either do it your way where nobody's going to look at it, or you can give them a little something here, give them a little something there, and then sneak the nuggets in the back door. And then they're getting essentially what you're wanting them to get. It's just not necessarily right in front of their face, if that makes sense. So, I know a lot of coaches get really holier than thou on the whole, like flash and like, jelly or ankle breakers or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, that's what kids want to watch. That's what they want to learn. So like I might do a breakdown of an ankle breaking crossover, so it sounds really flashy. People are interested in it. But at the same time, I know that I'm preaching my fundamentals on the inside and I'm helping them. I know that not everybody's going to be able to do the move, but at the same time, I'm trying to drop nuggets inside of the video that are going to help people get better and maybe move closer to being able to do the move. So I think that's where a lot of people get caught up a little bit is they think about, they feel like it's like inauthentic to teach that sort of stuff when really, you have to get kids excited for them to even, open an ear to listen to anything.
I like that. And for you, this is the last question about the copy and really granular stuff. But how do you feel about I'm reading a tweet right now that I saw a lot of training secrets and beliefs are built on sales, not stats.
Uh-huh.
It's a good quote. And I think the guy who said this was mentioning, increase your points per game by X, which a lot of people can do. What is your mindset with that kind of lingo and copy when it comes to words used?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's kind of it's a push and a pull, right? You've got to use some sort of kind of, lingo that's going to get people interested, pique their interest. But at the same time, you've got to have the steak with the sizzle. I think things like that get really dangerous when there's no steak with the sizzle. But when you have a product that you believe in, when the training works, when that you've done your homework, when that you've tested and tracked and, done the due process on the back end, and then actually have results to back up your claims, then I don't think there's anything wrong with it at all. One of the things that I get a ton of pushback on, whether it's marketing stuff that I put out or, all this sort of stuff is I constantly get told you cannot become a better shooter immediately. It's reps. It's nothing but reps. And that's the only thing that's going to get you better. Just get your butt in the gym and get reps up. And that is a super old school style of thinking that is just not true, because I've seen it with my own eyes thousands and thousands of times. The story of the kid shooting the free throws earlier, that was the light bulb moment in my head where, yes, you can become a better shooter, especially if you're a really bad one, in 2 minutes, in 1 minute, in 30 seconds, if the right tip is applied at the right time. I think a lot of the times people see, either marketing or copywriting or something like that, and they automatically just write it off as that couldn't possibly be the case, without knowing the substance or without knowing what's exactly behind it or without knowing the process that goes into it. Definitely is there some snake oil type of stuff out there being sold? No doubt about it. But at the same time, there's actually a lot of really good stuff that I think some people write off early just because maybe they're not believers. You know what I mean?
For sure. So what is the ultimate goal for Shot Mechanics?
Yeah, so the ultimate goal has always been to spread the word with shooting and to help as many players, find confidence and become the best shooter that they can possibly be and enjoy the game. At the end of the day, it's a game. And the reason why I love basketball so much is it's just that escape. When you're playing hoops and you're zoning and you got it going, like there's nothing you're thinking about. And it's really one of the best feelings in the world. And I know how passionate so many kids are about it, especially now that it's turned into such a global sport, that really with Shot Mechanics, I want to help the people that get forgotten about. I've never really cared about working with a bunch of pros. That's why I live in Boise, Idaho. I don't really care about, being the biggest name on the training scene or whatever it is. I want to be, that average 8th grader who maybe got cut from the team, who maybe, loves the game, is obsessed with the NBA, but isn't physically gifted like some other kids. I want to be the advocate for them, and I want to give them a chance to, maximize their potential and be as good as they possibly can be so they can continue to enjoy the game like I've enjoyed it, And at the same time, if I take over the entire world, being the massive shooting coach, then even better.
So be it, right? So be it. So that's funny you mentioned that. I think about Shot Mechanics, and a thought that comes to mind that other people will ask is, oh man, people will talk about their names who want to get started, because they come to me when they want to get started because they realize I'm just, I'm fresh into the scene, like 6 months, 7 months. And they're asking, hey, I don't want to pigeonhole myself too much. You have a name, Shot Mechanics. That doesn't seem like it stopped you at all for niching down so much.
Yeah, and what's funny is Shot Mechanics was literally probably my 35th choice. When I first started, and I was like, I'm going to do this thing. I got to name it something. And so I went through and I had this computer piece of paper and just was writing down little names on it. And literally I had probably 50 written down. And then I just started checking URLs that were available. And it was nope, shotdoctor.com is already taken. Nope. Whatever is already taken. And it was I went all the way down the list. And honestly, when I first picked Shot Mechanics, I was kind of mad about it. I was okay, whatever. I guess I'll do this one. I knew I wanted it to be shooting based. And then it ended up honestly, I think it was just meant to be, because I actually found that list. I think it was a year ago. I found it in an old file cabinet. I was looking at some of the other names and I was just these are terrible. Thank goodness the URLs were taken. It was such a blessing in disguise. The name, that was part of my strategy to begin with, was to niche down, build kind of a niche. And then as you build an audience, then you can be the expert in that space and then expand out. One tip that I will give your audience that I think is really overlooked is I would try to stay away from your name as being the company, instead of being Colin Castellaw basketball, Shot Mechanics is something that you can expand, you can grow, you can bring people underneath you, you can make it bigger than you can retire, you can plug somebody else in. So at a certain point in time, I'm going to be too old, I'm going to be lazy, I'm not going to want to get up at 5 in the morning to shoot videos anymore. And so at that point in time, I can bring somebody in and then we can still be Shot Mechanics, and it doesn't have to be a full weird rebrand where it's my name, and I've always got to be attached to it. So, a little word of advice for you guys out there listening. Think about trying to get something else that can scale and kind of live your legacy past when you're done.
For sure. I hear mixed feedback on that all the time because some people are so big about personal branding and they say, hey, well, on Instagram, how many people do you follow? How many companies do you follow? You should brand your name. It's both, right? You still brand yourself in a
I mean,
sense, don't
I
you?
still go with, like Coach C with Shop Mechanics, but just like to keep my options open.
For sure. For sure. And, is that wifey there?
Yeah, check who just crashed the interview here.
That's your daughter?
Little girly back from ballet.
Oh, hey, what's your name?
What's your name? Can you say L? L.
Hey, L. Oh my goodness. I'm glad we have video. I'm glad you don't mind being on video. That's the beauty of YouTube right here. How are you doing?
Good. She just got her first haircut yesterday, and she had a little 2-year-old ballet this morning.
I want to tell you, man, your pictures are good on Facebook, but the only reason you get likes is because of her. Like she takes great.
She carries the likes in the family, no doubt.
She does, man. It's like the blue eyes are just flashing, and like she has like this most authentic look on some of those pictures, man. Like, yeah. So you're blessed, dude.
Thank you. And because of that, I gotta go. It is now family time.
That's fine.
Hey, much appreciated for the interview,
sure,
man.
Nah, no problem, man. Thank you.
All right, take care.
You too.